This conference will now be recorded.
Uh, Hello everyone. I'm Srinivas. I'm the founder of the VLSI Guru Institute. Along with me on this call is Vaibhav, our institute manager, and Prasad. He's our FPGA subject matter expert or the head trainer for FPGA domain at our institute. Many times we get inquiries for FPGA, and even there are a lot of graduates who have graduated in last recent 1 2 years, and they have a lot of queries regarding FPGA. And many times the people have misconception that FPGA is a narrow domain and there are not many opportunities, and it's not a well-paid domain compared to ASIC domain flow. So we wanted to have this FAQ question and answer session with our trainer, that is Prasad. And just to this discussion is to help people who are new to FPGA domain to understand what is FPGA, what kind of opportunities are there, and what will be the career prospects and what would be the growth prospects in terms of the salary. So before we get into further into this question and answer session, let me just introduce Prasad. So he's our trainer for last 4 years into FPGA domain, and having around close to 10 years of experience into FPGA domain, and he has worked on multiple complex FPGA implementation projects. And he's a passionate teacher, and also he's currently pursuing his PhD from BITS Pilani. Now, without wasting much time, let's get into the queries related to FPGA system design. I mean, these kind of questions uh, will will be spread across various aspects. It could be going into the technical aspects of the FPGA. It could be going into the career aspects. It could be in terms of the what kind of work we do in FPGA flow, various aspects, and even in terms of the career opportunities. So that is where we have put together various questions that we get from the various students, and we thought, why don't we just have a casual chat with our trainer and get the expert opinion on this. See, rather than me or my manager giving the answers to this, we thought our trainer could be the right person to give uh, right inputs to each and every question. So let's start off with these questions. First, uh, let me start off with the first question. What is FPG and how is it different from VLSI? Yeah, Hari, you can answer on this.
Yes, Srinivas. Yeah. So the name FPGA, which stands for like Field Programmable Gate Array, the name itself indicates that like it's kind of like field programmable arrays of gates, right? So it's like something like in childhood we used to play that Legos or mazes, like where we used to connect various blocks and we used to build some toys. In the same way, here the field programmable gate arrays is something like where we have multiple gates. I mean, gates, flip flops, and memories in a single ICs, and which we can actually configure for the required circuit. I mean, like for instance, in ASIC, what we do, like if I want to design an SoC, right? So what we do, like we go the conventional way of designing like transistors and like whatever the memories I want, like various circuitries, digital signal processing, all these things. But these are all like, we do it like based on physical design or things like that. But in the FPGA, what happens is like we have a platform. I mean, it's like kind of breadboard where all the components is available in terms of abundant availabilities are there in that, in the sense like for instance if I want to build a multiplier of like 32 cross 32, then usually in the ASIC flow what I have to do, like I have to design equivalent digital circuit, and like I have to go for the physical design and then the production and things like that. But here what I do, like I will write a Verilog code which will convert into like equivalent net list, and like kind of like what are all the gates required for that particular multiplier to implement, and that will be mapped onto the available resource in the FPGA. So what will happen actually, like one best advantage here, if you see in the ASIC, if I had to realize that multiplier and if I had to see that in the hardware, I had to wait for maybe like half an year, like maybe 6 7 months till it goes to production and testing like that. But here immediately I can see like what's happening in that particular design itself on the hardware itself, right? uh, I mean, see it, it can be realized in two way. I mean, you can think of two way. This is one is basically like you can think like I mean, if you can directly go for that FPGA with that production directly with that production, right? But another, like if you want to go for the ASIC, then you can put it on the FPGA and check like how it behaves in the hardware. And in case of ASIC, uh, if some design gone bad, I mean, there are a lot of verification, but by chance, if you had done some mistake in your design, then entire process has to be repeated. I mean, the production process has to be repeated. But here in FPGA, what is going to happen? Like if you want to, if you, I mean, in the hardware you found that like it's the expected output is not coming, then you can reprogram it. That reprogrammability is available. That is the advantage. I mean, the name itself indicates, right? It's a field programmable. Once it is delivered to the customer can program like however the way he want. I mean, he can design that. He can use that FPGA in the way he want. Actually, that's the thing. Actually. That's basically FPGA. You can, I mean, in general, you can say like it's kind of like a breadboard with a lot of digital components.
Thank you, Hari, for that. So, just to summarize what you have said, basically, FPGA is not any different from VLSI. So, if you see, just to summarize what you said, VLSI has two divisions. One is called as ASIC, one is called as FPGA. So, if bulk production is the requirement, we go for ASIC. What is meant by bulk production? We are using a mobile phone. So, since mobile phones are used in bulk, so there people use ASIC technology. And let's say you're talking about some oscilloscopes or some kind of electronic chips which need to be used in a limited manner, which don't go for bulk production. Because for example, oscilloscope is there, you don't use it in every house, it is only used in the electronic labs. In those kind of production, I mean, there they go for FPGA. Typically there will be one cutoff number. Once it exceeds that number, let's say that number can be 50,000. Once you cross that 50,000 or 1 lakh or some number, for you ASIC becomes more cost effective. Below 50,000 number or some number will be there like that, where FPGA becomes more cost intensive. uh, and just to summarize what Prasad has said, uh, it is like, even though companies work into ASIC, let's say for example you go to Qualcomm, they are making mobile phone SoCs. At some point they have to do some kind of prototyping, there they do use FPGA. Okay, so for every company, even though it's a pure ASIC company, every company, some or other teams will be there which will have some kind of FPGA work. And there are other companies like defense companies and few companies who work into this kind of electronic the few chips which are used not for a bulk production, they do adopt FPGA kind of technology. Prasad, does it capture what we wanted to discuss about? How is it different? I mean, how is it related into VLSI? Vaibhav, am I audible?
Am I audible, Srinivas?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, no, no, yes, yes,
Yes. See, to add on to that point, so whenever
yeah,
we have rapidly changing specifications, right? So, for instance, like
yeah,
let me consider telecommunication example. So,
yeah,
where like every 5 or 6 year, our specification is going to change, like 4G now 5G. In
yeah.
next 5 6 years, like it will be 6G. So, in that sense, like the operator has to invest a lot, like if they want to change like an entire system with the ASIC, right? I mean, if the specifications are like, I mean, in the ASIC you cannot change the circuitry, but what they do in terms of like whenever we have the rapidly changing specification, they usually go, even though it's a mass production, they go with the FPGA, so that like by just changing some firmware they can adopt to that technology without much hardware change actually. So that like the investment wise also it will be cheaper for them. I mean, that's why if you see nowadays, in Bangalore itself, like you see like lot of FPG openings in the 5G companies, 5G and telecommunication companies. That's the reason, one of the reason actually, like where telecommunication mostly depends on FPGA based technologies actually.
Thank you for your insight on this, because till now even I had a wrong understanding that It is we prefer FPGA only if there is not much of bulk production. But thank you for that. I mean, as you said rightly, right, that if the specifications are changing, implementing the ASIC flow again takes almost a half a year or a year based on the complexity of the design. But the
True.
same thing can be closed in much shorter duration in using FPGA. Hence, it is advantageous for the company to adopt FPGA in many of these cases.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's go on to the next question. So the next question generally we get from the students is it considered as part of VLSI domain? Yes, we have discussed that it is part of the VLSI domain. What percentage of the jobs are into FPGA domain? Let's say if it is VLSI, let's say there are 100 opportunities in VLSI. How
Mhm.
many percent of those jobs will be into FPGA across world? Let's talk about across the world and in the India. How the scenario is there? Can you please?
Yeah, actually, see, I can say maybe around like out of 100, maybe 30% will be related to 30 or like around 20 to 30%, maybe across the globe or India. So it is related to FPGA in the sense. See, actually, many people will consider this FPGA, look into that FPGA IC perspective only. But if that person has had worked on this FPGA, it doesn't mean that like he has to stick on to that FPGA based chip design, FPGA based development only. So there are opportunities. See, like when you work on the FPGA, right? So you will be working on static timing analysis and like even synthesis aspects, linting, CDC. This is like system design basically. FPGA. When we talk about FPGA, it's kind of like system design, right? So we will develop on mostly all aspect of VLSI when we work on FPGA. So. When I say that like he's working on the FPGA domain, so his job scope is not only limited to around FPGA chip itself. I mean, if he think that like okay, in the FPGA I mean I'm expertise in like timing closure. In future, if you want to get into the timing closure, I mean CDC or timing engineer, STA engineer role, so he can jump onto that. I mean, there is no barrier here actually. I mean, I have many colleagues who has worked like 4 5 years in FPGA and he switched into ASIC also because whatever we work it here, right? I mean, even the RTL in the ASIC, if I work on FPGA, so in ASIC he can work on the RTL design because RTL design is like not different for the ASIC or FPGA. So it's both the side like it's like Verilog or VSDL coding with some logical reasoning, right? So here it's like I can say it's around 20 to 30. It's not limited to that. I mean, if he has worked on FPGA, he can explore other FPGA, I mean, other VLSI domains also in that. I mean, he's not only limited to this FPGA thing.
Okay, thank you for that. So, in summary, out of 100 jobs, we can expect that there are around 20 to 30% of jobs which are into FPGA kind of FPGA related
Yes,
work.
and it is not limited to that. I mean, if you want to capture other part like 70 or 80%, in that also few jobs are there, right? RTL engineer or timing
Yeah.
engineer, STA engineer. If he can get into that also. I mean, later point of time, if he feel that part is interesting to him.
Yeah, basically FPGA is not like a completely different domain. There are a lot of skill set which is common between ASIC and FPGA.
Yes.
But I believe the good thing about FPGA system design is you get to see the entire flow. In
Yes,
ASIC,
that is the one
what
thing
I have
why
seen is,
I like in my, I mean, even though I get ASIC opportunity, right? Why I don't want to switch into ASIC is like every day I work with the systems. I mean, whatever I do, right? I actually like work with that system. For instance, like if I say I'm working on 5G, I work on like these base stations, I work on this communication system, I connect to the spectrum analyzer and I see how it works. But whereas in ASIC, you might be part of very small IP. I mean, you might not be the part of entire system, and that I mean, whoever work using that ASIC will be the part of that system. But in FPGA, it's not so. Actually, you will be even for instance, like your ASIC prototyping, right? I mean, for the ASIC prototyping, you have to work on FPGA. Initially, we will be prototyping it on FPGA. At that point, also, how that ASIC behaves in the system, you will be seeing in the real time FPGA, and I mean there also you will get to see whole system, right? So it's that is the interesting part here. I mean, which I also personally like much.
thank you for that. So as I understand, see, even myself, I'm an ASIC engineer, but see
Mhm.
what the problem is. For 15 years, I have only worked into functional verification domain. Just
Mhm.
because I own the institute, I got to see what happens in the backend domain, what happens in static timing analysis, what happens into DFT. But otherwise, I had a very little scope to explore the other aspects of the VLSI, because the nature of work in ASIC is such that you have to work into only one specific domain. So I think, like as you said, in FPGA, you get to explore all the aspects as part of the FPGA system design flow. Okay, let's move on to the next question. The third question is, what are the job opportunities for FPGA domain? How many companies work into FPGA? I think it's kind of answered, but if you can just tell the some company names, how the opportunities are
Yeah.
there in US, European based companies.
Yeah. So actually, all the VLSI companies, I can say that like they'll be like using FPGA for their prototyping aspect, like Qualcomm, Synopsys, Intel, Cadence, especially. So these guys, anyway, that is there. Samsung also. Apart from that, you will have, see, that is like that covered like all the VLSI companies, right? Apart from that, now even image processing companies, the defense companies like Accord, Mistral, Astra Microwave, like Thales, Thales, right? Collins Aerospace, these are all defense companies. They actually are using FPGA for their prototyping
Hari, you are not audible. Please check once.
I'm audible, Srinivas?
Yes, now you're audible. Yeah.
Yeah. So see, if I consider like aerospace systems, there we have a limited number of air flight or like a limited number of aircrafts we'll be having for a project, right? So there, it's not feasible to go for the ASIC. I mean, it's unnecessarily time taking, and like there will be a lot of testing process. If that doesn't satisfy, then it will be like a repetitive process. So in that scenario, we prefer FPGA, right? So all the aerospace defense companies will be using like FPGA. And now we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if we go for the conventional processor or GPUs, it's like a kind of like most of the things which happens in that conventional processor or GPU, it's a sequential. So you may not be able to meet that speed, right? So for instance, like now, now many people are talking about Chat GPT. So where the load, the processing load is very heavy. So in that kind of system, wherever these search engines or artificial intelligence processing are happening, that backend, right, FPGA based systems they'll be running. Okay, so all the artificial intelligence. Now, if you see companies like Facebook, Amazon, or Microsoft, if you go to their career page and search FPGA, there are plenty of openings. I mean, in the Bangalore Microsoft itself, if you search, there are like I think 2 3 job openings for the FPGA domain. I mean, they are building some there. I think they are integrating this Chat GPT and like their Bing search engine. For that, they are looking for some kind of acceleration in FPGA. So this is the opportunity. I think like most of the companies. And one interesting thing I want to mention. So many people will wonder. In the finance, FPGA is used. I mean, if you search in the LinkedIn, the companies like Alpha Grep, Goldman Sachs, even JP Morgan hire FPGA. That's because they go for something called high frequency trading, HFT companies, and there are like some other sub companies who support these HFT based systems. Like I think in HSR layout itself, there is one company. I don't remember. It starts from C actually. I mean, there are some companies who develop such systems, right? So for these things, we need FPGA. Wherever acceleration required, we use FPGA. So I can say it will cover all the domain. Basically, FPGA will cover all the domains.
Okay. Thank you, Hari, for these inputs. See, what I have seen is there are so many opportunities, so many companies working. So they
Yeah,
definitely can't work with only experienced people. They definitely have need to have a lot of freshers to be part of the team, so that they can balance the workload and balance the expenses. But I'm surprised to see that there are almost only one or two institutes across India who provide a quality training into FPGA domain. Okay.
true, true.
Uh, yeah. Let's move on to
And
the next question.
coming to the freshers, right? So the opportunities are more. I mean, there are like lot of, I was mentioning lot of companies name, but in as you were mentioning, there are limited training institute, so the limited number of resources available for FPGA, right? I mean, very less people FPGA, very less FPGA engineers are there in industry. So definitely there will be plenty of opening for the freshers actually, train freshers.
Yes, yes. Even we come across scenario where companies approach us, but we don't have many candidates to, I mean, to provide the details. I mean, we don't have the many candidates who are trained actually. Okay,
Yes,
and a lot of people just go by what their seniors tell, like go into physical design, go into functional verification, go into DFT. So then they end up getting into those domains where which are already competitive, because if you see physical design, there are few domains which are, everyone comes because they don't like programming. So only alternative without any programming exposure is physical design or DFT. They get into it, and there are hundreds of people who are looking for limited opportunities. There they find it difficult to get in. So that's where I
yeah,
believe it
and
would be a good idea for them
one
to
more
explore
point to
FPGA kind
add.
of domain.
Yes, one more point to add to that. See, we talk about inflation, job firing, and all, right? So here in FPGA, as I told, it is like multi-domain. I mean, now, for instance, like in chip domain, chip design domain, if we find that like job openings are not there, and like a chip domain, design domain is not doing well, so I mean, we can easily switch into defense domain, because like defense domain will be always evergreen. And if defense domain is not doing good, so we can go for some kind of image processing and other system domains. So here, like since this is like widespread domain opportunities, so it's something like kind of evergreen. I mean, you can switch on to any domain and you can work there. So it's not only limited to like chip manufacturing or things like that.
More importantly, what I see in FPGA is after 10 years or 15 years, you want to do something of your own, where you want to set up your own
Yes,
company, where you have an idea and you
yes,
want to put it into the, uh, you want to bring out that idea as a product, right? So ASIC
yes,
could be millions of dollars. It would take millions of dollars to materialize as an ASIC product, right? Whereas I believe
yes,
FPGA could be easy option where you need just few hundreds of dollars and you get everything as a open source, the softwares and everything, and you can
true.
always implement your idea into the product. And it can be done with very limited resource and very little investment. So in long term, where if someone wants to do something of their own, and FPGA could be a right domain for that. Do you agree with that?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, for that, to add to that point, like recently I was talking to one of the startup. So where they are actually building one of the medical system. So the entire system they are building on FPGA. So maybe like initially few of the system, like till they get suitable funding, they may go with that FPGA kind of FPGA based design. So once they find that like their system is doing well, they are getting a huge income and they have a large system, right? Then eventually they may go for the ASIC. So that kind of things also you can do, right? I mean, initially, whenever you are not sure about your market, you can go with the FPGA. Maybe like your cost of production may be little high, but eventually when you get more demand, you will go for like ASIC kind of things.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let's go to the next question. Vaibo, can you just continue from here?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead with fifth question. Yeah,
Yeah. Let me share my screen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Prasad, can we know what is the salary package that a fresher can expect in this FPGA
Yeah.
domain?
So actually, see, as a fresher, in especially like in VLSI or even in the uh, FPGA domain, right? So initially for the core domain, you may not be getting that high salary, right? So initially, I can say maybe first 6 months or 1 year, that may be like it may be ranging from 4 to 8 lakh in that range. Depends on like which company you get into. I mean, if you get into defense-based companies, you may get like around 5 to 6 lakh kind of package. But if you get into like very good companies, and if you are like from tier two or tier one companies, tier one colleges, then you may end up in like 18 to 20 lakh kind of packages also. But once you get that experience growth, right? I mean, it's something like, see, initially on this FPGA and all, like most of the things we learn from experience. So whatever we have trained, we might have trained with respect to various projects and things like that. But the real time challenges when you face, right, that time you will see, you will start learning. I mean, it depends on like domain to domain. Like if you come to the telecommunication domain, it will have its own challenges. If you come to the video processing domain, it will have its own domain. So initial days, your contribution might not be that significant for the company. So that in that way, like you might get like little lesser salary. But once you get the get that experience, right, then usually it will be for 3.5 to 4 into your experience. For instance, like a 10 years experience guy can get like 40, 45. I mean, even, I mean, it again depends on which company you are in. So if you are in like US based or Europe based companies, you will get like even 50 plus. So, and that is a kind of salary we expect. But initially, like it ranges, it starts from around 4 and may be like this based on your colleges and things like that. It may be like even 18, 20 lakh also. It depends, like scenario to scenario. But one experienced, I can say like it will be very huge. I mean, into 3.5, 4 and 4.5, that range you will get.
Right. So even being me handling the placements for freshers, even those who are going into ASIC domain also, this is the salary range that they get as a freshers also. Because as you said, I totally agree. Depending on upon the experience and the performance, the salary hike goes on increasing, and even they get a chance to work into MNCs also. It's totally depends on what efforts they are putting. But from you now, I came to know that FPGA and ASIC, there are no difference in terms of the salary range. Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
Vaibhav. Vaibhav, you're audible. I think maybe Hari
Yes,
has
yes, you're
something.
audible. Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I think I
So
got
we will,
in.
yeah, 1 second. Yeah. Now we will move on to the next question. Yeah. So it is somewhat related to the previous question only, that after 5 or 10 years experience, where what growth the candidate can expect in terms of salary. Hello. So
Vaibhav, you are
Srinivas, are you?
audible.
Yeah. Prasad, are you there? Hello.
Am I audible now, Vaibhav?
Yeah, you are now audible. Yeah. So my voice is clear, right?
I'm audible now?
Yes, yes, you are audible now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So just it is somewhat related to the previous questions again. That is, someone having 5 years or 10 years experience, what kind of salary he can expect or what growth he can expect.
Yes. So with the 5 to 10 years, as I was saying, it will be like your experience into like ranges from 3.5 to 4.5, depends on which company you work on, right? So if it is like US or Europe based companies, so usually easily you will get 4.5 into your experience time,
Okay. So
like
it has given
30,
me a clear.
35, 40 lakh. It depends
Right,
on
right, right.
experience and it will, yeah, factor, a multiplication factor.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So yeah, the one more question that strikes into mind is, see, even I am from a ASIC verification. So people have a clear picture about what is the growth of 5 years, 6 years down the line. Like they will be working at a verification, then they might get a chance to work on SOC level. But when it comes to FPGA, they don't have the clear picture about what will be the growth opportunities. Can you please let us know? Since the mindset has came that FPGA is a narrow domain, it is only restricted to the boards. So can you tell me just what are the growth opportunities are there in FPGA domain?
Yes. So actually, right. I mean, in the first question also we were discussing. So, if as a FPGA engineer, right? So you are not limited to just FPGA based things only, because like ASIC and FPGA, there are like lot many common aspects like timing domain analysis or like CDC linting and even RTL design, microarchitectural design. So it's not limited to only FPGA. I mean, you can like later point of time, if there is no enough opportunities available in only FPGA based systems, so you can switch into like a VLSI. There is, I mean, it's like wide area. I mean, you have like more flexibility there.
Okay.
I think few of the
So
many things like yeah, it's common to that, right? I mean, initially also we had discussed like it depends on like I mean it actually like giving you opportunity in the finance, telecommunication, medical, whatnot. Actually, I mean, lot of opportunities.
right. So basically, FPGA is not a separate domain. FPGA is the subdomains where even if you have experience in, or even if a fresher has experience, he can switch to ASICs, and there are a huge growth. Like even someone can go, as you said, Lint CDC is a part of integration. Through FPGA, again, he can move to the integration domain as well, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can move on to the next question. Yeah. So when it comes to a fresher, basically what they will do is they will try to get the clarity about what is VLSI from ASIC or FPGA, how they are different, and they don't. Being a fresher, they don't have much exposure about what is FPGA and what is ASIC. So they have a question that which domain to select and why, either to go for FPGA or to go for ASIC. Can you just provide your inputs on this?
Yeah. So according to me, right? So initially, as a fresher, you will not have much idea on what you will be doing, right? So I mean, like whether your interest lies on like physical design, whether your interest lies on timing analysis, whether your interest lies on RTL design, will not be clear. I mean, based on the limited inputs given by your seniors or like what you have studied in your engineering, you might be assuming something, right? But as I told, in FPGA, we will be dealing with the end-to-end system design, where you will be working on the RTL design, timing analysis, synthesis, implementation, integration, so many things, right? So here you can actually like even you can explore like which is your interest, right? I mean, here you will get to know more things. I mean, like and that too, in case of VLSI, you have to have like more on the programming aspects and all like object oriented concepts. In the verification and all, you need to know system verilog, system C, and so many things. But here a basic any of the RTL, maybe VHDL or Verilog, that is sufficient for your design aspects, right? So that is the advantage here. So to start with, I mean, later point of time, if you find that like your interest lies on like as a CDC engineer, so you can just you can switch. I mean, I mean, after 2 3 years of experience, you can easily switch. So there are many of my colleagues they found that like okay they want to pursue their career in synthesis after this like working few years in FPGA, so they are also into ASIC actually. I mean, that's what the advantage is. But one thing, right, once you get into ASIC, for instance, like you are a physical design engineer or like ASIC RTL design, you cannot get into FPGA, that is for sure. I mean, reverse is not possible. Okay, so but from FPGA to you can get into any domain, but from that domain to ASIC, usually like FPGA companies will not hire, because here for the FPGA, right, you need to know some optimization techniques, you need to know some tool knowledge, you need to have some debugging skills, so many skills which will be missing in the ASIC domain, right? So that is the thing. So usually what I prefer as a fresher, if you get into FPGA, right, that will be like ideal, I feel. You can see nowadays like even most of the R&Ds and things like that, right? So they start with the FPGA only. I mean, you can consider Samsung Research India. So there, most of the initial proto R&Ds, right, in their R&D team, they'll start with the FPGA only. Okay, so where they'll get a system knowledge and things like that. So I feel getting into FPGA domain will be, as per me, I mean, since I am a FPGA engineer, so I feel FPGA is the ideal for you as a fresher, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, even I would like to add in this, as per your suggestions, if a
Hmm.
fresher or even a candidate starts a career into FPGA domain,
Hmm.
many doors gets opens where there are good growth opportunities. Even he can enter into ASIC also.
True,
His
true.
experience in FPGA will definitely will have a add-on to that ASIC.
Yes, yes. So you
Yeah.
see, actually, like there will be like in the LinkedIn, you might see like a lot of openings for RTL engineers and like system integration engineers and all, right? So those openings will be open for FPGA engineer also. We can, I mean, even
Right.
we can apply to those memory design, and so many design roles will be there, right? So because in the FPGA also you'll be doing some designs only, right? So it's same, I mean,
Correct.
common.
Right. Even for FPGA or even if ASIC for the design, we will use being you will be using either VHDL or Verilog. That is common
Yes,
for
true.
both, even ASIC as well as FPGA.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we can move to the next question. So is the openings in this FPGA are restricted to a particular, like in India only opportunities are there, out of India opportunities are there. What happens is there are candidates who wants to work outside or who are currently doing MS over there or has plans to do, but
Hmm.
they want to know if I get into FPGA where I will be land, or even if I want to switch to outside India, then will I
Hmm.
get the opportunities? So
Yes,
what
definitely.
is your perspective
So
regarding this?
definitely, actually, uh, in in India and abroad, in US, right? So there are like plenty of FPGA opportunities. I mean, I was mentioning about Google, Amazon, and Facebook examples like autonomous driving. Nowadays, people talk about autonomous vehicles and all, right? So these vehicles, basically, like all the controllers, everything is like end of FPGA only. Artificial intelligence, accelerators, all these are like FPGA only. Nowadays, you can see a trend. So since in US or EU, they're not getting enough resources, like people who can work on FPGA. You can see like they are opening a small office in Bangalore or Noida or Hyderabad, and they're hiring Indian resources because like there are like plenty of openings. I mean, I can give you my own example where uh, company where I work is like headquartered in US. So they are not getting enough resources in US actually. So that's where like they are hiring from Bangalore or local offices. So there are many resources and high demand for the FPGA. That's where uh, nowadays, like even US universities or German universities, they are including some kind of basics of FPGA things in their curriculum. And one more thing to add, if you go for a research, for instance, like in US or EU, there you may have, if you are especially like if you are going for MS in VLSI, so there you cannot design like as a your as a final project you cannot design ASIC or any chip level things, right? So most of the projects what they do in the VLSI MS, right? Especially I have seen a few of my students as well. So they do it in FPG only because they can show the end as a working product in their research, right? So I mean, see, whenever you are doing some research, you have to show some actual system, and like you should show some optimization of the algorithm how it works. So you cannot demonstrate just using some EDAs, I mean some simulations and all. It will not add weight. So you have to show some prototype for that, right? So in that case, like what they will be students will be doing, they'll whatever the Verilog or VSDL code they have written for their system, they'll put it on FPGA and they'll show. So that is very important thing actually. If you are especially pursuing your planning to pursue your MS or like PhD or research there, so FPGA will add more weight. I mean, recently one of my student she was saying that like FPGA added a lot more weight in her research work, because like she was doing I think like she was doing a risk pi based project in their research. Basically she was modifying some architecture and optimizing things like that. All these optimizations and all she was showing in the FPGA itself.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, there are opportunities in US and EU also, and even when it comes to India, there are opportunities. Basically, seeing the growth, even the US market is hiring the Indian candidates, right? They are having
Right,
offices
right.
either
There
in
are like no candidates and they're hiring Indian candidates.
right, right, right. Yeah. So thanks a lot. Now, see, what happens is basically when we talk to the candidates, they when we talk about the FPGA boards, they only know the boards that they had used in their academics, like Xilinx, Quartus, Altera. These are the boards, and
Hmm.
what they think is they just have to write a simple code that basics and gate or gate, and then they dump into the boards and take the output. So they
Hmm.
don't have a wider clarity of what are the things that can be designed, like can the phone SoC implemented on FPGA? So can you please elaborate on this?
Yes. So in FPGA, right, you can implement anything. Actually, I mean, again, it depends on like what kind of FPGA you use. So there will be like a number of resources, limited resources available, and as you go higher and higher end FPGAs, you can fit more and more gates and memories. So so any system, mobile systems or like your laptop processor, everything initially will be prototyped in FPGA itself, right? So you can design any system, and for that sake, like whatever the FPGA board we have it in our institute, that we call it as a Z board. It's actually like a little higher end FPGA only. It's 7 series Xilinx FPGA, where you can design. I mean, you can implement like higher end video processing, image processing, or even telecommunication applications also, because you can see that like there are HDMI ports, HDMI processors, and like in that itself, that board itself, we have Ethernet PHY, and even we have DDR, SD card, so many things actually. Those are all connected to FPGA, and we this like little high-end FPGA that is not FPGA. We call it as a FPGA SoC, where nowadays companies started integrating SoCs and RFICs within FPGA, so that like some part will be hardcore, like analog parts, and some parts will be like modifiable, reconfigurable architecture like FPGA, so that it can work for any application, right? So that is the advantage actually.
Okay. So basically, even now there are high-end boards where even you can do a complex projects and even real-time projects like phone associated on FPGA as well, right?
Right, right, right. But since I mean, like, see, for instance, like mobile SoC, I can build, but as Shinima was also saying, uh, as we go for see mobiles and all, it will be manufactured in millions. So the same design initially they will prototype it on FPGA, but when I want to go for the mass production, I will be mapping into ASIC. I mean, in the production cost wise, it will reduce for me.
Right, right. Yeah. So we will move on to the next question. See, now what happens is even in FPGA there are very few institutes providing. So then the question comes to the students' mind: why VLSI? Why they should select VLSI Guru, or how VLSI Guru will help them? And since you will be the trainer, I think you can provide more inputs on this. Can you please tell us?
Yes. So the way how we designed our course, right? So it's based on like my experience and like some inputs from my colleagues. What are all the things we need to add it so that it will be helpful for their career when they get into FPGA domain. So I mean, I try to cover almost all aspects of FPGA design so that like they can, I mean, without much investment on their time in the training. I mean, when they get into job, right, they can directly get into like what they are working. I mean, they'll understand what they. So usually, what happens if very fresher? I mean, like if we get into FPGA. Uh, FPGA job, and like if he doesn't have like background and some of the things, if he is not aware, then he has to explore that. I mean, it takes around like 6 7 months for that itself if he is going for the self exploration mode. So, but now I have designed such a way that like we have included various projects and like a live demonstration lab sessions, such a way that whatever the things he is going to face in the real time job, right? So that thing we have addressed in this course. So I mean, without much effort, right? So he can easily like his job process will be smooth. I mean, once he get into job, so he need not spend much on like understanding what is FPGA and like understanding the project specifications and hardware aspects. So directly he can start working on the actual things. So in that way, I can say it's really helpful for the student because and we start teaching from very basic. Okay, so I mean we start from the digital aspects also, right? So we have like digital basics to Verilog aspects, and like we cover Linux aspects, scripting aspects. I think you can see like no other institute can provide these kind of things. I mean, they may provide only FPGA or they may provide only VSDL kind of course, but this kind of integrated course, right? You will not get anywhere. I can say that that's for sure.
Yeah, even as you said in the previous question that we have a Z board that is high-end, higher series Xilinx board, and we will
Yes,
be doing
yes,
the project on that. Now, coming to see the course structure was divided as per your guidelines. We have divided a course structure as 2 months of basics and 4 months of mains training. So, in the basics, we will make sure that we start from the very basics like AND gate or gate. Then we will go slowly towards the advanced topics like Verilog basics, Verilog projects. In the mains training, they what projects we will be doing in this, and
yes.
having that projects in the CV, what impact it will be.
Right. So, see, actually, as a, I mean, whether it will be equivalent to our 2 years job experience is your question, right? So, it's actually, see, when you get into FPGA as a fresher, so if you are a fresher, so usually they'll be like in the companies, people will give you basic interface things and all, right? So, SPI, UART, all these things. So, eventually, once you get the experience, so you will be learning how to interface the higher end memories, Ethernet, network interfaces, and DSP things and all, right? So we have designed a course such a way that we start with the interface things. So how usually your career growth in your companies, right? So in the same way, we designed our curriculum and project. So you will be like implementing various interfaces like SPI, UART, I2C. Then eventually you will go into higher end interfaces like Ethernet and memory interface like DDR, SDRs. Some communication based examples like designing a small software defined radios or implementing a small kernel for CNN. So such projects, right? So it's something like which you will be like really working on. I mean, if you get into companies, there also you'll be working on the similar projects, right? I mean, same thing. So uh, so you will feel whatever the projects you will perform here, so it will be almost similar. You will get a feel that you are working somewhere. And I mean, like in the course also we are trying to make sure that like whenever actually like I as evaluate a student's code, right? So I actually like look into the way how I review my peers code in my company. I mean, I'll when I review my code, so usually I give some comments, right? So how design comments, or like how usually like what kind of process they have to follow. Those comments usually I give to my juniors and all in my companies as well. So that kind of evaluation process, since we are following, what will happen is like the students will also get they are in the industry feeling. So that is the one advantage of our course.
Yeah. So even the boards that we are having, we are giving them the 24/7 two lectures so that they can do a hands-on practice. So by the end of 6 months, they can have expertise into the project.
True, true. So actually, this since it is connected to server through VPN, they can access anytime they want, and they can program and test it how it behaves, right? So that is the advantage here. So
Yeah. Uh, Thank you so much. So, coming to the next question. Yeah, it is somewhat related to the previous. So, the boards that we will be
yes.
using is the Z board, right?
We are using Zboard, which is having Zinc SoC. So Zinc is like, is it an industry standard? So it's actually like, if you see most of the 5G systems or like even artificial intelligence systems, they use Zinc SoCs. Okay. So, I mean, there might be slight difference in the version of the Zinc SoC, but that versioning is based on like how much resource you want. I mean, so for instance, like if I want to go for the 5G system where I need more lookup tables, more memory, so I'll be using slightly bigger FPGAs. But the tool techniques and kind of skill set what you have, what you need to have, right? It's same across all the FPGAs. Like so that is like if you learn in the Zinc SoC, it's like same thing what you'll be doing in other FPGAs also. It's like kind of higher end FPGA what we have.
Yeah, sure. Coming to the next question. Yeah. So, training in online mode. So basically, what the question has is theory sessions they can attend, but when it comes to the labs, how can they able to access the board and will be they able to do the hands-on practice onto the FPGA board, or will they be able to do the projects onto the that board?
Yes. So as I was saying, we have connected our Zboard to our one of the server, and they can access through VPN. So what will happen actually, like in Zboard, right? We have some especially in FPGA, we have one tool called ILA, okay, Integrated Logic Analyzer. So whatever they are putting on that board, how it behaves, we can see it using like these integrated logic analyzers. So it's something like CRO. I mean, if you are doing some projects, if you want to check how your project behaves, usually what you do, you put it, you program that into board, and you manually probe through some CROs and things like that. But using this integrated logic analyzer, right? So you can see what is happening inside the FPGA. Whatever you have programmed, is it behaving in the same way? So in that way, you can also like even the Ethernet coding and even display things and all. So everything you can actually like check it remotely. So you need not be there physically. And one more good thing, I mean, nowadays, right? Even these FPGA boards is available through clouds. I mean, now, see, there are Kintex, Vertex, so many other versions of FPGA also, right? So usually in industry, what happens if I want to check my design, how it behaves in various different devices? What usually I have to do, I have to buy those boards and I have to check. But in Amazon web servers, right? So you can get that for like hourly basis, instance basis, like you might have used the cloud servers, right? In the same way, now we are getting remote boards for testing in the hourly basis. So that kind of things also there.
Yeah, right. So basically, even if the candidates they think that do I have to purchase the board and all, so there are tools as you said like logic analyzer and all. Even the tools, the board is connected to a server. Through server, they can easily access. So accessing the
Yes,
tool or even accessing the board won't be any problem in the part of training.
yes, yes.
Okay. So here, there are some queries regarding the questions like when it comes to FPG, SIG, they know what they are going to learn, like Verilog, System Verilog, UVM, and even in physical design they know. But when it comes to FPGA, what exactly they will be doing or how the verification will be carried out. When it is a system design, they just
Mhm.
are more interested to know what are the topics we will cover.
Yeah. So in the initial our FPGA, integrated FPGA system design, we'll start with the digital design. Then we will learn basic scripting, Linux basics, and Verilog, VSDL, these things. Then once we get into actual core FPGA design, right? So we will start with some of the what are the resources I was mentioning that like various resources available inside the FPGA, right? gates, memories, DSP blocks, or block RAMs, so many things. So we'll be start studying those resources, and we will see like how our Verilog or VHDL code will be mapping into those resources. We will start from that point. Then eventually we will get into like synthesis techniques, how we have to simulate that. I mean, how to verify those designs, whatever you have designed, and how actually it maps into like routing will happen, how timing closures we have to do. Then we will start into some of the basics of upgradation, programming, and implementation, bitstream generations. Then eventually we'll move on to some real-time projects like DDR, interfacing DDR, SPI, UART, some of the projects like DDS, communication projects, some basic image processing projects, Ethernet projects, and things like that. And also, I mean, we are planning to include some of the MATLAB DSP and see, actually in the FPGA, right? So we also sometimes use MATLAB based synthesis and all. So also there is something called HLS, high level synthesis. So we are also planning to have those topics also, which is like very advanced topic, which is nowadays like Intel FPGAs and all coming with. So we are planning that too, actually, to include in our sessions.
Right, even so basically we will start from the scratch and gradually we will go on moving towards the advanced topics. At the end of
Yes,
the
yes.
course, not only the topics mentioned in the curriculum, but also we will include the topics that is upcoming, and the upcoming technologies also we will try to do. As you said about the MATLAB also, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Using MATLAB, there is
Okay.
something called HDL generator. So we will
Okay.
cover that too.
Mm-hmm. So we will be covering all the topics which will make a candidate taking a course expertise in the FPGA system design with respect to the
Yes,
current technologies also.
yes.
Thank you so much. So we will move to the next question. So see, when it comes to a VLSI or someone starting into VLSI, they have a mindset. Basically, candidate going into VLSI belongs to electrical electronics background or electronics and communication subdomains of it. So they know C plus+ only their first year of engineering. They don't have any exposure to the coding part. So for a candidate to enter into FPGA domain or to a course or to start a career into FPGA, do he require any prerequisites of programming?
I can say no need of any software programming expertise. Okay, but we do need some kind of HDLs, that hardware description level, like VHDL or Verilog, which we will cover in our course. But this VHDL or Verilog, it's the approach of coding is not more like software coding, right? So it's something like how we connect our circuitry, how we design our circuitry. In that way, we code like flip flops or gates in that way. So if you are good at basic digital design, so it's not much of coding aspect. It's like mostly like how you design the things. So that is the thing. I mean, you need not much have the coding aspects. If you don't like coding, so this I can say this will be ideal course for you.
Right. So there is no as such band limitation where a candidate should have a programming expertise, because since in the curriculum itself we are covering the Verilog. If a candidate is having any knowledge of the programming, it will be added advantage. But it won't be a stopping factor for a candidate to start a career. He can easily get into FPGA as it doesn't
Yes.
involve much coding. So right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sure. So again
And
the same
that
question.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Actually, nowadays, what happens that you will get the IPs also. Okay, so for instance, like if I want to implement a SPI interface in my uh, FPGA, so you will get Xilinx inbuilt IP. So you just need to interface those IPs. So then
Okay.
in that case, it will be mostly plug and play kind of thing. Then mostly you have to focus on how to close the timing, how to uh, generate the bit stream, how to fit the design, those aspects. So coding aspect will even become simpler.
Right, right. Even when I have done these generating a bit stream and all, I am very much happy while doing it because it doesn't have any programming expertise or no coding is required at all.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So again, the same question regarding the fairness of candidates that my candidate has, like programming. Like if I don't like programming, can I go into FPGA? See, what happens is, as
yes,
Srinivas sir said in the starting also, if they don't know programming, they will only go for physical design. They don't have
yes,
the
yes.
awareness that even FPGA domain is very good, where if a candidate don't have programming knowledge, still it will be a good option for to start a career in VLSI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you please provide
Definitely.
any
Actually,
inputs
if
on
he
this?
doesn't like FPGA is also one of the domain, right? I mean, where he did not have much programming aspects, just like using some IPs and things like that. He can build a system and like he can synthesize it. So
Sure.
Hari, just to summarize here one point. Basically,
mhm,
even in FPGA, some amount of programming is required, but the complex
required,
aspect
yes.
of the programming won't be required. Like, for example, the difference between Verilog and System Verilog would be like learning object-oriented programming, learning a lot of new constructs in System Verilog language. Probably someone who is getting into FPGA would be good if he's comfortable with Verilog language. And even if they don't learn System Verilog and UVM kind of methodologies or languages, they will still be able to do good in FPGA domain. Is that correct, right?
Yes, yes. So actually, that's what I mean. HDL knowledge we do need the basic HDL knowledge we do need, but again, it won't be like object-oriented programming or like software kind of coding, like how we want in verification things, right? So here mostly like we have to think in terms of like how we have to implement digital logic. So that kind of thought process here.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, we can move to the next question. See, the candidates has some perspectives in their mind because they might be asking, getting the feedback either from their seniors, their colleagues, or through the open sources. So,
Mm.
as per my perspective, what is this? FPGA is the best domain to undergo training. Can you share your thoughts also on this?
Yes, definitely. Actually, FPGA is the best I can say because see, along with the what they are get the feedback from other, right? So they can explore themselves in terms of like they can go and search in LinkedIn like how much opportunities they have right in the FPGA and what kind of researches are happening in the FPGA. Things like that, right? I mean, now people are talking about Chat GPT and all. You just check like what kind of hardware they are using in the Chat GPT and also I mean, now all the search engines, for instance, like Google search engine and all. So everywhere, like this kind of like FPGA kind of FPGA systems are used. So you should uh, explore yourself also a little bit before listening to your seniors or like getting feedback from them. So, as per me, I mean, since being more than almost 10 years in FPGA domain, right? I feel like FPGA is like one of the best domain we have because like I've seen other domains also because I was in a semiconductor industry for a few years. So now I completely moved into wireless domain. That too like again FPGA only. So basically like FPGA, right? I have seen other domains also where we will like the job opportunity is limited to that. I mean, if you directly get into the timing engineer or like integration engineer, so you'll be limited to that. I mean, even after 10 years, you cannot switch easily. I mean, again, you have to go through some training and all. But in case of FPGA, you'll have broader job perspective, right? So I feel like FPGA is the best option. I mean, to start your career with.
Yeah, yeah. Even I feel the same because as per the discussion, there are even plenty of opportunities, and even the fresher has opportunities. As we discussed earlier,
Right.
even whether it's respect to India or outside, there are huge opportunities.
Yes, and that too, see now, since because of this job demand, like FPGA scarcity, FPGA engineer scarcity, even with a little training, right? If he can prove that he know FPGA, he can easily get in. I mean, I have seen like since I also take a lot of interviews, so we are so desperate that like we need to have some FPGA engineer with little FPGA engineering knowledge also sufficient for us. So that kind of uh, job demand has come for FPGA because there are like very limited FPGA engineers are there.
Yeah. So now coming to the next question. So what projects or what real-time projects or industry standard projects we will be covering as a part of the course?
Yeah, so actually, initially we will cover some of the interfaces which we will be using. So, like UART, SPI, I2C, and all. So then we will move on to some of the memory interfaces, DDR, SDRs, and we also cover some of the artificial intelligence, image processing things, CNN implementation, and some of the basic recognition algorithms, things like that. And then we also cover this Ethernet aspect, building a small server using Ethernet. So that is actually like, I mean, the knowledge of Ethernet, right? So it plays a very important role into getting into FPGA because most of the companies who uses these systems, right? I mean, as I was saying, it's like it will be part of a larger system. So Ethernet knowledge plays a lot of add-on point there because like companies like Cisco, Juniper, or even like 5G companies, they need Ethernet knowledge. So on for that reason, we have included that Ethernet projects. Yeah. So then we have other small lab sessions. I mean, where we will be actually getting small project, getting into small project, which will help you to understand more onto the conceptual level.
Yeah. So I think we have covered all the aspects about what is FPGA and what they will be going to learn in this career. Having a couple of few more questions. So yeah, regarding the tools and the FPGA board. So will the candidate be able to do a hands-on access to the tool?
Yes, so actually, whatever the FPGA tools we have it right. So, like if we there are two types of usually like in the market, two FPGAs are dominating. One is Xilinx FPGA, and another is Altera FPGA. So in Altera FPGA also like there is a basic version of the tools called Altera Lite, which is again open source. You can download and use it. Another tool for the Xilinx is Xilinx Vivado. Again, for the lower end FPGAs and like even basic FPGAs, it's available for free. Only I was mentioning that like if you go for a very high end systems like Kintex, Vertex, and all, so then you may need to take license. So for your learning purpose, still that will be free. So you will not face any issue. And again, if you feel that like you don't have sufficient bandwidth in terms of like because these FPGA tools may require little more RAM. I mean, still it will open in your PC, but it may consume like it will be a little slower. So if you want to execute your project a little faster and all, so then we have in our institute also, right? So it's installed in our VPN and like the servers and like they can access through VPN. So tool wise it won't be an issue. I mean they'll also their own in their own PC also they'll get access or we have a facility which they can use make use of.
Yeah, sure. So even through the server, they can access the our Z board also, which will be using during the training.
True.
So if when it comes to a fresher, he just know what is FPGA, what is a six, some academic perspective or through friend perspective, whatever they know. Basically, if someone is having a thought process that I don't know anything for the FPGA, So the question comes into mind that I have to start from the scratch. So where I will land after doing this course, or can I join and get a job in FPGA?
Yes, yes, actually, definitely, right? I mean, uh, as a fresher, also you can get into FPGA. It's not an issue. I mean, in the sense, like as I was saying, so with a little FPGA knowledge, right? So there are multiple companies are eager to hire them.
Yeah. These are all the
Just to
questions that.
summarize, just to summarize, I believe as a fresher, what they really require is that basic common sense and the willingness to spend effort for that
Learn.
6 month duration
Yes,
and be keep themselves motivated for the 6 months. I mean, rather
yes,
than preparing, I mean, trying to get a job, they should be preparing to get expertise into that chosen domain. That could be FPGA. They should think that how can I become an expert in a FPGA domain? I think that's the perspective, and I believe the resources that we have, the trainer we have, and the kind of projects we do will definitely help them gain that level of expertise. And once they have the expertise, and there are many companies who are looking for people who are good with FPGA, and companies are willing to hire them immediately. That's my observation over last 3 4 years. Yeah.
yes. And whatever the project they do it in course, so they should do it like it's real time project. And I mean, it's they are doing for some kind of product or things like that. Then actual real motivation will come. Actually, it's just for the completion of course they should not do. So that kind of motivation they should have.
Yes, and the way you said, right, in FPGA they will be able to see the things happening on the board. In
Yes,
ASIC, it's
yes.
all in the simulation, in the software. We see the things, and we
PDS.
don't really correlate with how it works in the real life. I believe FPGA in
True.
that sense is very interesting domain where you see the things happening yourself directly on the board.
Yes. Yes. And see, I can tell you my own interesting stories. Like initially, I was in some of the federal companies, right? So it's like, see, actually, like these systems will sit on to some flights and maybe some of the real-time systems. So you will get into, you will get an opportunity to go into their facilities. Like for instance, some space companies are using your system, so you will get into get an opportunity. I mean, as a other engineer, you cannot go into those. I mean, you will not have access to those facilities and all that. You cannot go and visit and see their systems and all. So we will get such opportunities. I mean, we can go and visit their system and we can integrate our system there, and like we can see how the end result is. I mean, how it is going to be used. But in ASIC, what will happen? So, for instance, like we'll consider you have designed one PLLIC. So you're not sure. I mean, it might be used in some system, or like you will not know where it is used. But here you will see like what happened after you implemented and where it uh, deployed and things like that.
Sure.
So,
Thank you
I mean, if
so
you
much
are a
for that.
part of a telecommunication company, so your own design systems might be providing you 5G internets or things like that.
That's very interesting. I mean, just to see the product that you developed, you using the same product. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Vaibhav, anything you want to add on top of this?
No, sir. Almost my all queries has got cleared, and we got a clear idea about how FPGA and as well as the career perspective from FPGA. Yeah.
Yeah, Hari, thank you so much for taking out your time and like patiently answering through all the questions. I'm sure this video, what we are going to put up on YouTube, will be very useful to some of the freshers who want to make a decision about getting into VLSI domain. Now, probably this once they have gone through this video, it should give them an idea that it's not VLSI is not just about ASIC. VLSI has another very interesting domain called as FPGA. There are a lot of opportunities. The career growth is equally good as an ASIC engineer, and FPGA is one domain where they can probably get a job with lesser competition compared to other domains in the VLSI. Thank
Yes.
you for that.
True.
Uh, yeah, so we will end the session, end the question and answer session with this.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah. Thank you.
Srinivas.